the Splinter Mine binge has finally come to an end. It's probably wrong to judge a game by its drugs, but this made me feel quite optimistic for this game. I should probably say, hello, Mollusk here, this time bringing you another Warhammer 40,000 battle report. This time, the Kabal of the Bitter Irony faces off against the Orky Cult of Speed, or whatever they're called. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of time to play this game, and as this is my first time playing Orks, I have virtually no idea what my opponent had. If I manage to get hold of his list, I'll stick it down there in the comments. Right, before we kick things off, I'm going to do a little bit of showcasing. I'm not entirely sure what this beautiful hunk of junk is, but it looks like a very cool trukk conversion with a big shock attack gun, or whatever they're called, attached to it. Yeah, looks pretty good. And there's an action shot of it leaping the blood pool. So here we have a long shot of the table. I won the roll to choose deployment zone, and I chose the side I'm standing on. We're playing Maelstrom, Cleanse and Control, and the 6 objectives are: 1 is in this gun turret building, 1 is this nice red building, 1 is a little big golden Space Marine statue here, another is another great big Space Marine statue in this building, and there is a bomb over here and some scrap heap over here, and those are our objectives that we're fighting for. My opponent won the roll for the first turn and so deployed his forces first. So over here on the left flank, which we'll call West, there are a big unit of Storm Boys, or the Jump Pack Orks. There is a trukk next to them with, I think, just a squad of boys. Next to them is a gigantic unit of bike orks or bike knobs. I'm not quite sure what they are, but yeah, there's a lot of bikers there. I think there were 15 of them, and they also include the war boss for the 16th member. Next to that is a trukk, and it looks like that's the one with the weird boy. There's a better picture of the centre. Next to that is another trukk. I don't know what was in it, presumably boys. Next to that is a trukk with the rocket launcher orks. Behind that is the shock attack gun trukk. And next to that is a looted tank with a big gun on it. I don't know the name of it. And that plane over there, sorry about these names, I really don't know Orks too well. I'll get better at that. But yeah, that's coming on in a later turn, one would hope, if one is an Ork. For my part, I deploy like this. On the west flank, I have my Black Venom, and close to the centre is my Green Venom. Time wasn't really a luxury when I was deploying here, and I didn't really know how I was going to deal with that gigantic blob of bikers, so I was making things up on the fly a bit. But the idea here with the Venoms is to destroy the rocket Storm Boys as they advance up the flank. I don't foresee a problem with that. I wanted them away from the majority of the dangerous shooting, which I thought would be on the great big tank, the looted tank on the other side of the field, and I wanted a firing line through the middle of the map for when those bikers came down the streets, and to just add poison fire support into that. So that was the idea there. Next is the Ravager. I wanted it to be kind of central, as its plan was pretty much to be shooting at the biker squad all game and just kind of holding the fort. It was pretty obvious the Orks were coming to us. The Reaver jet bikes were placed behind the objective gun tower. I've placed them centrally so that they can get to wherever I need them, and I'm really not sure where I'm going to need them. Next to that is the Raider with my HQ squad, placed again for the same purposes. The general plan for these units is to get into the enemy's backfield and try to take out nice squishy targets like troops that will try to hold objectives later on in the game, or vulnerable things like heavy weapons teams, that kind of thing. The Orks don't seem to have much in the way of that kind of thing, so I'm a little bit unsure about what I'm going to do with these units. So they're going to hang out and chill in the centre until I can figure that out. In front of the HQ raider is my raider with the racks. And their job is very simple. I'm going to run them out and feed them to the biker unit in the attempt to slow them down, whilst I try to manoeuvre for advantage in other areas. That's the orcs. And that's another view of the centre. In the blue ruins to the east is my Talos Pain engine. And again, its job is just to hold the centre and collect whatever tasty green samples it can. On the far east flank are my Scourge. So I noticed my enemies seem to have lots of trucks on this flank and not really having many other targets but those the Scourge have deployed here. Behind them is the second Ravager, again trying to get its sights on either the bikes or the trucks that the Scourge will destroy. Will hopefully release lots of boys for the Ravager to ravage. And that's essentially the plan, is to sit there, shoot at him, wait for him to come to me, and try to whittle him down to manageable size by the time he hits me. Hopefully I can go out and grab some objectives as they turn up. It's not an inspired plan, I know, but it's all I've got. I got the Awesome Warlord trait that allows you to re-roll dice to seize for night fighting and for bringing reserves, and unfortunately I was not able to seize even with my re-roll. So the orcs surge forward into turn 1. Their engines gunning through the night. The war boss is taking brutal cunning to the next level and has chosen to attack at night, figuring that this is the last thing the Dark Eldar will expect. And so they swarm through the Twilight Ruins and down the alleyways. Over to the east, the Storm Boys jet forwards through the building. One of their number crashes into a wall, but otherwise they're fine. Their targets are the Mandrakes, who have been placed there to draw them out of position onto the flanks. Not very well, it has to be said, as they're kind of going the direction they seem to want to go anyway. The Mandrakes were a little bit closer than they thought to those orcs, but they're still doing their job of being a distraction, I guess. Kind of, a little bit, maybe. The Storm Boys fire at the Mandrakes and can't pierce the veil of shadow that surrounds them. The war truck that's also moved up in support fires off with a ton of shots and manages to take one of the Mandrakes down. As we're here, we'll do the assault phase. The Mandrakes overwatch, but I don't think they do anything. The boys, the Stormboys, as they've already used their jetpacks this turn, they have to run up the building to get to the Dark Eldar, and they need an 11. And they run 11 inches, making the charge. They've been training hard. And yeah, the Mandrakes attack first and do a mighty 3 kills. I must apologise profusely to my opponent at this point. I thought they were weapon skill 5 as their elite Dark Eldar. They are only a weapon skill 4, so perhaps not so many Stormboys should have died. And I'm very sorry, and I'm a big cheater. But hey, I'm learning this game. The Stormboys in turn just massacre all the Mandrakes and then reform back down the building. I should also say that my opponent was very understanding of my cheating and was just a really great guy to play. Really made this game fun, and so big thanks to him. But yeah, so bit of Dark Eldar cheating, and I will remember for next time. Over to the east, it's the psychic phase, and the weird boy in the truck launches his small blast template psychic attack at the Scourge, who look like they've died horribly, but haven't, because they just can't stand up on the uneven ground. The I was unable to deny the witch, but the attack, I think it was Frazzle or something like that, went off target. He then tried to cast his bigger smite or foot of Gork attack, whatever it is, crush, something like that, but unfortunately did not raise the power he required to get that off. So the Scourge survived, and I'm very happy about that. Over here in the shooting phase, the shock attack gun blasted the Ravager to tiny pieces. I don't think I jinked, and I'm an idiot for not doing that. I think I thought it was, just one attack, and it's, one hit, and it's gonna, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't think it would explode, but it exploded good. So I'm down a Ravager, and he's up a first blood. So at the end of Ork Turn 1, I think his looted tank has secured objective 6. He's killed something in the shooting phase, and he's killed something in the assault phase. He's netted himself 3 points. On top, he also has first blood. I think that's what happened. So going into the Duck Eldar turn 1, I get Witch Hunter, which is good. He's got a Psyker. I get Demolitions, which is bad because he's not got any buildings, and he's not in any buildings. And I've got Harness the Warp, which is not good because I have no Psykers. This is a picture of my HQ Raider shooting across the board. It has the Aether Sails, so I think it moved, and then in the shooting phase it jumped right behind his lines. The idea here is to present a tempting target for the boys in that truck, or even the biker squad if they want to come back and over this way, and get in position for line breaker. And I'm hoping that just to draw heat away from my fire base by dangling my HQ over here. In other movement, the Black Venom comes back more centrally. The Green Venom heads out, I think. Does it move? It maybe moves just a little bit to get into a different position. The Reavers don't move. I don't think they move. I don't really know what I'm going to do with them. And I'm waiting for an opportunity to arise. If those boys don't take the bait and go after my HQ, then they'll come in towards the centre, and I'll try to head them off with the Reavers. They're also there for when the bikes break through, and again just try to hold them up, hopefully. The Raider with the racks has headed out to try to block off the bikers. The racks have got out and into the building, and they're going to get into position to flame their liquefier guns from the windows into the bikers, because that's getting quite crowded over there. The Talus I forgot to move. But it's not such a bad thing, because I guess it's still getting its cover and holding the line, which it's supposed to be doing. The Scourges moved out a little bit, just to get into position to fire on the leading truck and the tank. The Scourge on the far east by the wall start things off and immobilize and 2 hull point the battle tank, the looted tank, but unfortunately are unable to finish it, and they're going to pay for that. However, the second group of Scourge in front of the Ravager do their job and wreck the truck with the weird boy and the savage orcs, and that's great. The plan is to try to get that psychic, kill the psychic guy. Wow, my terminology is just spot on tonight. From over the shoulder of the Scourges, the Ravager opens up on the same unit and kills a few, but it's not enough to get the weird boy. Oh, and there's a picture of the nearly dead looted tank. To the west, the Black Venom annihilates almost all of the Storm Boys, and the lone survivor heads for the hills. I was expecting to have to fire both venoms into these guys. Pleasantly surprised by how fragile orcs are to shooting. It's not often I face armies that wither quite like this. And then I fired the green venom into the biker squad. I think I killed a couple of bikes, and obviously that really doesn't dent the unit very much. It's pity the Ravager, the second Ravager, got killed, because that would have been very nice to contribute his firepower into that gigantic unit. But I'll take what I can get. From inside the buildings, the racks open up with their liquefier guns, and I think I rolled fairly... not that great for my AP. I think it was a 4 and a 6. The needed 6s to wound because the bikes are so tough, and the blood that we're squirting out is so limp. I don't think the AP 4 one did any wounds, and the AP 6 one wounded, and he failed his saves and feel no pain, and lost another biker. Would have been nice to take out a few more, but again, with strength 3 on toughness 5, I think it's I should be happy with what I got. So damage has been dished out by both armies this first turn, but the orcs are sitting pretty on 4 victory points to my nothing. On the cliffs, watching the battle unfold below them, the Bloodra Marines look on, coated in the viscera of the millions they have slaughtered on the next table. They're making a cameo appearance at the request of the young man who is their proud general. The orcs begin their second turn. Not quite as dynamic as their first in terms of movement. The missile boys move up past their dangerous terrain. They don't care about a small wall and end up where you see here. The looted tank is immobilised and can't move. The shock attack gun truck stays where it is. It's got perfect range and line of sight. It's happy there. The savage boys, I don't think, move up. Not quite sure why that is. It might be that my opponent just wants to keep them back out of harm's way a little bit and get that psychic attack off. I think he brings one of the trucks up to try to block or shield them, and as well as get it out of the way so the bikers can move down the street. The bikers don't move that far. They pretty much just drive up to the windows, and that's going to go badly for the racks. On the other side, I don't have a picture unfortunately, I think the Storm Boy continues to run away, and the truck with the normal boys just moves up around the corner, and nothing particularly special happens. The Orky fighter jet fails to come in on this turn as well, which was a bit unfortunate on my opponent's part. And in this picture we see the bikers chugging down the street. They open fire with everything into the racks and easily wipe them out. Unfortunate, I kind of hope they go for the raider, but either way they're slowed down for one more turn, and that's fine. In other news, the looted tank turns its turret and swats the annoying flies that assail it from the sky. It blasts 4 of my Scourge off the map, although 1 survives with a Haywire Blaster and passes his panic check, which I'm very happy about. In the psychic phase, the weird boy targets the other Scourge. He uses the Frazzle power, which I let go, and it kills 1 Scourge, which is luckily the one of the ones without the Haywire Blasters. He then follows up with a big, whatever the big power was, and I will try to remember or learn the names in future. But luckily, I throw my 6 dice at it to stop it, can't stop it, and luckily it scatters off anyway. My opponent was a little bit unlucky with his scatters this game, I felt. Anyway, we avoid further harm in this case. And with the shooting, as we've just seen, that ended the Orcs' go. He got 1 victory point for successfully casting a psychic power, and he got 1 for wiping out the unit of racks. So he is now on 6. victory points, I believe. In the Dark Eldar turn, the Talos, tired of being peppered by rockets, moves out of the ruins to face its antagonists. In the centre, the Raider, which previously held the racks, moves into the street more to block the bikers. Looking at that, I really could have placed that better. I don't know why I didn't go further up the street to slow them down even more, but oh well. The Venoms behind it, which you can probably just see there on the hill, have manoeuvred so that they can try and pop the trukk of the Ork boys that are coming round on the west flank, I believe that is, and also contribute fire to the biker squad if they need to, if things go unusually well and I take out more boys than I think I will. Yeah, that bike squad is a real problem. I really don't think, unless my entire army can focus on it, which it can't due to all the ruins and the way I've positioned, there's not really a lot I can do to it. So yeah, other than slow it up and try to run around, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. In the shooting phase, the lone Scourge raises its AY blaster and gets the tank in its sights and brings it down. That's what Scourge are for. That tank is probably much cheaper than my Scourge unit, but I'm happy with that. The way I like to think of it is that Scourge recoup their points by preventing other, more useful, more important units from getting murked by the vehicles of my opponents, rather than the actual points for cost versus what they cost for killing, if that makes any sense. Probably doesn't. On the west side, the HQ Raider jumped back towards the middle of the board with the idea that the Succubus is going to throw her haywire grenade at the trukk if the blasters in the Venoms can't do their job. As it turns out, the first blaster that fires blows up the trukk, and good job that Eldar. The explosion kills a couple of orcs, and the Venoms pour their fire into the unit, take it down to I think 4 orcs. They run away right up next to my Raider, and the Succubus basically just drops a grenade out of the craft. I think someone had tampered with the fuse though, because it blew up, killed the 3 of the orcs, leaving 1, and there's a recurring theme of this game I find is that I just can't quite kill the last orc, and it actually glanced the Raider itself as well. So yeah, I think there was a bit of sabotage going on there. The HQ Raider itself took some pot shots at the bikers and managed to wound one of the knobs, or I think it's a knob or whatever he is. He's got multiple wounds. He failed his lookout, sir, and then subsequently failed his armour and feel no pain, which was quite nice, but didn't really mean anything. But as always, we'll take it. Back over to the east, we've got a bit of business to get through. The Scourge target the rocket truck and fail to strip off the last hull point, which is really annoying. The Talos sprays the crew with a deluge of acid and melts 3 of them, I believe. The Ravager doesn't really have that many targets other than the Savage Boys, and so strips off most of the unit with raking fire. I had discarded the caster psychic power, harness the warp, which is the actual name, from last turn, and so my objectives this turn were still kill the Psyker, or Witch Hunter, destroy an enemy building, whoop-de-doo, demolitions, I believe that's called, and pain in all its forms. So basically I'm gunning for that weird boy in the Savage Orc unit. The Reavers, who are in the building on our left there, fire into the Savage Boys and kill the last normal Savage Orc, and I think there's only the Knob and the Weird Boy left. In the assault phase, they charge and deploy their cluster caltrops. I think between the two with the cluster caltrops, they got 7 Hammer of Wrath hits, 1 rending, and that was enough to wipe out both of the surviving orcs even before we get to the other jet bikes and their normal attacks. So yeah, that was quite handy. They're fairly good once they get into combat, I think. Additionally, the Talos charges the rocket truck, weathering a storm of rockets to the face. I think it takes 2 wounds on its way in, but Feel No Pain's one of them, and then does its job as it has done before in clearing up the mess that my failures and the rest of my army make, and destroys the truck, exploding it and killing several of the orcs inside. Good Talos. And here you can see the result of that. The jet bikes have gone back up onto the first floor. They didn't quite roll high enough to get up to the top there. And the Talos is sitting there looking at a lot of rocket launchers. And sadly, we had to call it there, so there it is, the end of the game. And that was a real shame, because this was shaping up to be one of the most enjoyable games of Warhammer I've played yet. I thought the orc list was really interesting. I was really looking forward to figuring out how to deal with those that biker squad with what I had left. And yeah, the Dark Eldar were down, but I don't think they were quite out. It would have been really fun to see what I could have, if I could have clawed my way back from the situation I'd got myself into. What we're looking at here is largely what the orcs have left: the unit of rocket boys, the unit of bikes. I think there's a truck with potentially another unit of boys behind the building in the centre ground there, and they've got a flyer coming in. I've got my Talos, which may or may not survive the rockets in the next turn. I've got my bikes, which they took some casualties to the exploding truck, but otherwise they're still functional. I've got my Ravager, one of my Scourge units that's pretty much still fully operational. The Raider's going to die, but then I've got my 2 Venoms, so yeah, it would have been really interesting. On top of that, my opponent had a great attitude and was just a pleasure to play, and so I thank him very much. Hopefully we'll get a rematch soon. In terms of scores, at the end of this turn, I had managed to slay the witch, or whatever that's called, for 1 point, and I'd managed to kill 1 squad in combat and 1 squad in shooting, which satisfies the D3 element of the pain in all its forms. In the excitement of packing up, we forgot to roll for that, so come on, pain in all its forms. 3. So the final scores were 6 for the Orcs, 3 for the Dark Eldar. A loss for the Kabal of the Bitter Irony, and even though the game was cut short, I'm still fairly sure my opponent had me. Although with random objectives, who knows what could have happened. Yeah, not much more to say other than I had a really great time, and I hope to face the Green Tide, or Red Tide in this army's case, again soon. Thanks for watching.